things that we wanted to go through. And today we will finish off the foundational elements. And from next week, Friday onwards, what we will do is we will now start focusing 15 minutes each team, right? It's going to be cross-team kind of a discussion. So we'll start with Greg team, what exactly they have done, what they have been doing it, and then understand their team structure. So Greg, you need to prepare a presentation about your team structure, who is doing what, and which stage you are in, like a professional, a leader of your team. You understand, Greg, what I'm saying? Yep. And same thing for you, Fayen, and also same thing for you, Mickey. So you got to prepare about your team structure, who is doing what you have done so far, what you're going to do. So you got to bring us up to date, all of us up to date to where you are. And then we are going to focus on your team to really start. It's going to be like a mentoring session, right? Okay, what you have, what you don't have. Let's identify what you don't have. Then I'm going to help you working together to achieve what you don't have in your team. So start building the team and take that forward. It's the same thing for you, Fayen, and the same thing for you, Mickey. So that's what we're going to do from next week onwards for 2 to 4 weeks, depending upon how we are progressing. We can make a decision when to stop that and then move on to our second learning session, right? Product management lifecycle. So what does it mean in practice? Is all the leaders here, make sure that you bring all your team members into this call from next week, Friday onwards, right? At least for 2 to 4 weeks, so that we can establish this foundation strong. Okay. All good?
Yep.
Okay. So now having said that, I will directly jump into our session, and today would be the last session of the foundational element. So let me see if I can open the presentation and share the screen. Hold on. Before I go there, any other questions or any other comments from anyone about the plan? So what we are going to do from next week onwards, we're going to see all this time we did two things in parallel, right? One thing is enabling the teams to start doing things together, and whatever the knowledge is required for the team to get there is what we have been doing so far. And next to 4 weeks is we will really focus on each of the teams to build the teams in such a way that you have a kickstart on what you wanted to do, right? So that's what we would be focusing next 3 to 4 weeks, and then we will come back to our second, which is product management lifecycle, then entrepreneurship and MVP, all the rest of the 3 things that we wanted to do this year. So any questions on that, please?
No questions, but this is just what I've been thinking about throughout this week, because we need to ramp up. So I'm happy we're going to be discussing all this in the next 4 weeks so that we can better prepare. It's a good one. I'm happy about it.
Thank you. Because see, it's a mix of everything, right? I got to balance it in a way that it's we are learning and we are also doing practically things. That's the most important thing. So it's that I wanted to finish what I call it as the first quarter semester. First semester. Let's think like this, right? We have four semesters for this Testoper project, just for the sake of explaining. And the first semester was all about, we wanted to learn this foundational elements. Can you guys see my screen, by the way?
Yep.
Yes, got it.
Sure. So the first semester was all about learning these foundational elements. I will show you some business plans and things like that, right? You will realize how much you have learned when I do that, right? At least from the concept point of view, if not a detailed one, but at least from the concept point of view, you will realize what all you have learned so far. So that's called as a foundational element. So we kind of finished this forecasting to set milestone in our last session, right? And now today we are going to focus on strategic planning, and my goal is to also finish off the strategic planning today. So that brings us towards the end of our first semester, right? And then our second semester is going to be the actual product management lifecycle. And this product management lifecycle is going to be something that we are going to learn together with the team while building the team, while understanding where they are, And that's what we're going to do from next week onwards. And we need really a full participation and understanding your state, where you are, and understanding each of these phases, and then do LinkedIn posts, reach out to the LinkedIn member to see who wants to join this session, and etc., etc. So that's what we're going to do from next week onwards. And we will have like I mentioned, you leaders have to bring all of your team members in here into this call. Then after that, in the third semester, what we are going to do is we are going to learn something about entrepreneurship, right? So by covering the foundational element and the product management lifecycle, you probably have covered 80% of the becoming entrepreneur, right? The knowledge, at least at a high level. Of course, you need to work on the details to become experts and things like that. But at least at the high level, you would get there. And then the third phase, what we would do is we will learn some delta pieces, right? We will learn a little bit more about how to build a business plan and how to create a pitch deck, and all those kind of things, that delta things that you would miss from the first 2 semesters. You will learn that, right? What are all the different types of mindset that you need to have in addition to the mindset that we have learned together, like leadership, team forming, and so on. So that's what we will cover in the third semester. And then in the final semester, while we are doing all these things, I expect that you guys have gone through concept all the way to the development, and you are able to have a MVP, and you are able to launch your product. That's your fourth semester, right? It's a practical thing. And then obviously, we will have the certification of attendance for 1 year that you have worked on this, like an experience certificate and so on. And we will, by the time if the COVID is complete, we will have a in-person party. If you guys can come and meet us in Brampton. So we'll have lunch or dinner in some place we will organize, and we will do it as a team. And in case if the COVID is still there, we will probably do it as a virtual one, right? Virtual closing event. So that's how I want to kind of close this whole project. And I know that now we are at least consistently 10 to 15 members are attending. Now we need to get this 15 members to 30 members when we are really ending this session. Okay, so that's how we need to evolve together as a team. And it is our session, right? It's not my session. It's our session. We are going to work together to get there and knowledgeable, and also as a team to make this whole session successful. So those are the 4 semesters that we are going to go together. And we learned number of things. And last session, what we learned was few of the interesting concepts that you need to know. The total market size, right? Total addressable market, attainable market, how many units that you can sell, right? And can you actually produce them? And then based on that, you develop your budget forecast, right? All these things are tied to the financial lessons that we learned in our previous sessions, like balance sheet and budgeting and so on. So this is what we covered. And today what we are going to cover is 2 slides, and then I'm going to open some tools, and I'm going to show you that will basically help you to understand what all you have learned, right? You will kind of understand in a big picture what all you have learned, right? That's why I want to kind of open up a business plan, and I wanted to kind of show you guys how the business plan is made. Then when you look at that, you would realize, wow, all these different points, at least I have learned in this last 4 to 5 months together in this session. That's the feeling that I wanted you guys to have and take away for today's session. Okay. And then from next session, what we are going to do, it's already been discussed. So let's get started with strategic planning. So what is strategic planning? So what is this? First of all, what is the strategy? Anyone can comment on that. What is a strategy? Whatever that you have in your mind, can you please share? What do you understand by the word strategy?
So the first thing that comes to my mind is, a set of rules or a set of ways that you want to go about a certain thing. So for example, if I had customers, it would be the strategy, like what are the rules, or how are we gonna I'm gonna communicate to the customer, I'm gonna get them.
That's good. Any other comments?
I would say strategy means it's a roadmap. So from start to beginning, from starting point to end point, what we are going to develop or do something, and then how we gonna complete those things which are we have in our mind. That's the complete structure that we put it on the paper or documentation. That's strategy, I think.
That's correct. Any other comments?
Just that pretty much what he was saying. To me, a strategy just means a plan that you have to complete a task or a goal that you want to set, that you have set.
That's correct. So now let's talk about tactics. So what is tactics? Tactical activities or tactics, you can call it as. Is it opposite to strategy? Or is it same like strategy?
I feel like it could be similar to it because with a tactic, say for example, if you're trying to persuade somebody to do something, then you need to come up with, I guess, a plan of attack. So you have to figure out how to attack something, how to attack it and to achieve that goal. So I guess say if you were trying to compete against another company for their services, or you wanted them to actually go with your company over anybody else's, then you would have to come up with a tactic to get them to see you as the choice to go with, if that sort of makes sense.
No, I think the literal meaning of tactics, you interpreted it as the action, right? And your answers are related to that. From that point of view, what you said is right. So here, what I mean by tactics is, see, when you are, I mean, first of all, strategy, the definitions that you both gave is the practical way of explaining. I mean, in theoretical way, number of people on the book can explain in multiple different ways. But in a more practical way, strategy is nothing but looking at a long-term plan, and in other words, vision, and making sure that you are able to work towards, you're doing anything and everything that is required to work towards achieving that vision and that dead end or the final target that you wanted to achieve, right? So that's the strategy. And it is all about looking at in a broader view, right? That's what is the strategy at a very high level, and you can plan to achieve that and so on. Now the tactics is completely opposite to the strategy, right? You don't look at the broader view. Today, what I need to do to get things done, right? So that's what is tactics. How do you solve and address the immediate problem that you have? So that's what is tactics, right? So the strategy and tactics, they are opposite to each other in the sense. But as a company and as an entrepreneur, what you need to do is you should be able to balance both strategy and the tactics that you wanted to embrace or adopt for running the company, right? I'll give you a analogy, and you got to eat today to survive tomorrow. This is very important. But at the same time, you need to preserve food today to survive tomorrow. That is also equally important. So you got to really, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, have to balance it out in a way that you are able to achieve your vision, and you are also able to solve your immediate problems that might not be aligned to the strategy in some cases, or might be aligned to the strategy, but you might have to kind of overcome those to keep your things running, right? I'll give you another example. Let's say you have a strategy to build a product, but you don't have enough cash flow to really get to what you need to do to to develop that product. Now what you can do is you can do some side tasks, helping other companies or consulting other companies to bring in some cash flow, which is completely a tactical activity, so that you can focus, redirect that investment to achieve your final goal, which is your strategy. So here, this good example is that you got to do this tactic activity, which is to solve the immediate problem of not having the cash to achieve a product that you wanted to build. That is your strategy. Hopefully it makes sense. Is it clear to you all?
Yeah.
Okay. It's very important to balance these two things. And this way, this is where the maturity of a leadership comes into the picture, right? But if you have lots of money and then you wanted to make more money and you do some side projects, that is not good. Okay, that means you are drifting away from your strategy. A good leader does not do that, right? So he has to balance between, he should be able to say no. Saying no is a good thing, right? As long as you have evaluated the pros and cons against the strategy and tactical activity that you're doing. That's the first thing that I wanted to make sure that you guys understand. And then the second thing is that, remember, strategy is a continuous. Everything is continuous. You becoming successful in your careers is because it is continuous activity of continuous learning. You want to build a product that customer wants to use. It is a continuous activity, as we discussed in our previous session, to keep understanding the customer throughout and make sure you keep on building the product, adapting your product to keep that customer happy. It's the same thing. Everything is a dynamic continuum, meaning, there is going to be changes expected. You got to adapt, and you got to adapt and act to really keep yourself relevant to the market. Right? It's as same as developing your skills to keep yourself relevant to the market. It's the same thing. You're dealing with customer, it's the same thing. You're dealing with competitor, it's the same thing, because competitor also keeps building their products. You're dealing with market, it's the same thing. You're dealing with technology, it's the same thing. Everything, you got to keep yourself a continuous mindset of following each one of them for you to be successful. And if you don't do that, and if you don't have that continuous mindset, like I always say, if you don't learn today, tomorrow you become not relevant, right? So it's the same thing for everything that you do. Just remember this. And the another point that I wanted to clarify to you is, like, strategy is a fun thing, right? I mean, what you are going through as a team, the challenge that you have, building the team, the challenge that you have, getting the people into the call, the challenge that you have to get the survey results filled in by lot of the people, right? It's a fun thing to have. It's a good problem to have. It's like you have this problem and you need to solve that problem. You have this puzzle and you need to solve this puzzle. The strategy is like that. So always remember, if you are a leader, I wanted you to know this, all the problems that you have is actually a good thing. Because if you don't have a problem, if you don't have a puzzle in front of you, you don't find ways to solve them. And if you don't find ways to solve them, you don't become experienced. And if you don't become an experienced, you are going to stay where you are. So always look at in a positive way. All the problems is a positive thing for us, right? And the strategy is all about solving that problem that you have in front of you. So as an individual, you need to have a long-term thinking and also balance it out with the tactical thinking, so that you can keep your boat sailing towards the destination where you want it to go. That's the key message. The another, if I have to put all these things, what I discussed with you, what you guys answered, if I got to put all these things in a simple one, what a strategy, when you are building a strategy, what should it answer? What question it should answer? It's the same thing what I told you before in a more fancy words, right? How do I know I am on track to achieve my vision? And how will I know when I get there? That is all of, if it answers this question, that's what strategic planning is all about in a nutshell. It's the same thing, right? When you do a personal planning in your life, right? You might decide to buy a house, and you might decide to wind up that loan for next 20 years. And even though the house loan is going to end in 30 years, you might have a personal plan to finish it in 20 years. So you need to know at a given point of time where you are. Are you able to achieve that vision? Are you on track with that vision? And when I get there, have I really reached there? So you got to be able to understand that with a due sense of calibration and due sense of realizing that progress, right? So that's what is all about strategy. Now, if I have to just summarize this, right? I just wanted to look at the top one, right? I basically will say it in 4 steps. Okay, the first step is you need to understand where you are. When you talk about strategy, it's always like that. You need to understand where you are first. You got to baseline it. Now, all the things that you have learned in the foundational semester that we have come to an end is applicable here. So how can you create a baseline? By doing a lot of research. What are all the things that you need to research? The number of things that we have learned so far. And all those data, you need to take those data and you need to create that baseline. What kind of a data? We have learned about industry, you know that. We have learned about competition, you know that. We have learned about customer. We have learned about product. We have learned about organizational, like team and their strength, weaknesses. So all these data, you got to organize. You got to collect and you got to organize. That's the first thing when you are building a strategy for your company. Collect all the data and organize all these data. Once you organize all these data, you have to generate insights of that data, create useful information out of the data. And based on that, you have to create your SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat. That we have already gone through that in the past, right? What are your strengths? Look at all these data and then come up with what are all your strengths? What are all your weakness? What are all the opportunities that you have that you can go behind? And what are all the threats that is going to impede you to go behind that opportunities? You got to list it down, and you can't list it down if you don't have the data. And how can you have the data? By doing research. And all these things is something that we have already covered it in the foundational element. Conceptually, you might know, but practically you might not have done it. But at least be happy. This is how it happens. And be happy that you already know what it is. And you have learned in this session together. So organizing the data and synthesizing the data is very critical. Then after synthesizing the data, you should be able to tell the story. So that will give you the confidence as an entrepreneur, as an innovator, as an intrapreneur. What you are doing is the right thing that you're doing. But still, there are a lot of unknowns and unknowns. You know, you can never avoid that. You cannot be 200%, 100% accurate in whatever that you're doing. There is always going to be certain assumptions. There is always going to be the risks that you would deal with. But what's important is, as much as possible, you know what to assume. You have identified the risks that's going to be in front of you is what is critical. The more you know upfront, the better you are. With an understanding, there is always going to be an unknown that you have to face. Nobody can be perfect. So remember that, right? So first thing is, if you want to become an entrepreneur, whatever that you have learned in the foundational semester, you need to bring all these data together. You need to analyze all these data, bring all these data together and synthesize the data and then create your story. And then you should be able to tell that story probably in our next session, right? Think about it. You should be able to sell the story. Hey, I've done this, I have done this, I have done these things, and these are all the things I have done, and this is my strategy for next 6 months to achieve our 4 semesters. You should be able to think from that point of view. And the second most, any questions on this? So now you should be able to connect all the dots that we have learned in the past, right? And then let's go to the next one. The next one is you got to start recasting the vision. If it is a new product, you need to create a new vision. And if it is going to be the old product, you have to refocus your vision, act and adapt and refocus your vision or the mission that you need to do to achieve your vision, whatever. So here I wanted to stress upon 3 words which you already have learned in the previous session. What is a vision? We learned it as something that I wanted to achieve over the period of time. What is the mission? Mission is to take one step at a time to reach that vision. What are mission should answer how. Vision is what, right? We learned about this. And we also learned about a word called massive transformative purpose. It's like a single word. Like, for example, what is the massive transformative purpose for Google? In a simple way, they wanted to make the world's information available to everyone. That's their reason of being existing in this world as a company. So these are all some of the words that we have learned, right? So these things you need to start recollecting, right? When you are trying to do a strategic planning. And where you are, right? What are you intend to focus and why? It's important. right? When you have this story in the step A, right, it will answer your question. What is your focus and why you are focusing? You should really answer that question. If you don't answer your question, you will not have the clear mindset to move forward and reach your vision. Right, and the third point is something that I covered, right? If it's a new product, you have to decide why you are creating this new product. If it is an existing one, so you have to decide, okay, I already have a product. Where do I want it to go with this product? Expand the market share, expand the customer base, and attract the new customers to buy the product, whatever it can be. So the second important thing is you have to really recast the vision of the product. So the first step is bring all the data, get the understanding of the data, and then start creating your strategy, and you have a story to tell what you wanted to do, right? And then once you have that strategy, then you got to align that with the vision of your product and make sure that you answer some of the questions related to why you are actually building the story. Right? Does it align to the company's vision? Does it align to the company's mission? Or is it drifting away? And if it is drifting away, do I need to refocus and redo my vision, change my vision? Or no, I got to stay in the same vision and I need to come back to the focus to get to my destination. It's okay to drift, but you got to have enough data that can convince you to drift, convince others surrounding you in a company to drift. Right, so all these things are very important. And then the third thing is strategic options. So now you have the storyline, now you have the vision. Now you need to choose what are all the things that I need to do to really, what are the options that I have in my hand that I need to choose to get to that destination. You got to start planning that as well, right? So you need to look at which market that I'm going to focus. So in the first one, you kind of looked at all these things and you have all the data. You might have 10 different data and you might choose one data as an option to go behind to achieve your vision, right? You might have 20 industries. You might choose one industry to go behind. You might choose two competitions to attack and then get the market share from them, meaning their customers, grab the customers from them. So it's all about, the third step is all about choosing the right option to execute your vision, to get to your vision. So you can choose what market, external factors like which industry that I'm going to go behind, which competition that I'm going to go behind and become better at it. Then you also have to look at internal support. Do you have someone who can give you the budget? Do you have money? Do you have skills to achieve that? If not, you need to start building that skills to achieve that. Then you need to look at the roadmap elements, right? Because you wanted to do that in your, and what feature are you going to do? What architecture are you going to choose? What technology that you're going to pick up to implement and get there? And marketing strategies, all these things we talked about in the past, right? How am I going to market my product? How am I going to price my product? Am I going to directly sell to the customer, or I'm going to find the partners who's going to sell to the customers and I'm going to give them commission? Am I going to do social media marketing, or am I going to go door to door and then I'm going to sell? And how am I going to measure that? Like how many volumes that I'm going to sell? What is my gross profit? The finance thing that we talked about. Now you should be, what is my market share? In a city, 100 people are living. If 3 people are going to buy my product, then my market share is 3%. So how much people that I'm going to target? 50 people. I want to grow to 50% market share. For the 50% market share, what is the pricing that I need to do so that I can cover my cost? And after doing all these things, measuring the SLA, it's called as a service level agreement. Did I really achieve that? Is the customer happy with my product? Are they satisfied with my product? If I'm going to sell it to the 50 customers, do I have an inventory to do it? Or do I have a production planned in such a way that I'm able to sell month to month and I'm able to deliver it to achieve the target? Is the product quality is going to be good? Am I certified hardware from government authorities or certification principles that government is asking to do if it is a hardware product? Or if it is a software product, is it bug free? Is it going to create more problems? All these metrics that you need to have and you need to start planning. And then finally, what you need to do is when you have identified all these strategic options, the different strategic options are applicable for different phases in the product management lifecycle, which is what we're going to start learning and doing together from our next session, right? Some of them, choosing the industry and competition, is applicable in the concept phase. Some of them, like choosing the right feature and implementing it, will be applicable for the development phase or the definition phase. And then identifying the volumes and then measuring the volumes and things like that may be applicable for during the launch phase, right? And measuring the customer satisfaction maybe is applicable for the post-launch to make sure the customers are happy. So whatever that you design to do as a strategy is all about, like you all mentioned, it's a plan. So different things that you would do within the plan will be applicable at different phases of the product management life cycle that you would go through when you're building the product. So remember these 4 things, right? This is what the strategy is all about. First of all, strategy is a continuum, right? It's a continuous thing that you need to do. And it has to really answer your question. Remember, it has to really answer your question of, where am I? Am I on track? Will I reach my destination? And if I reach my destination, how do I know that I reached my destination? That's the most important thing. And when you're asked in your company to build a strategic plan, these are all the 4 steps that you need to go through. The first step is all the first semester learnings that you have, collect all the data that is out there. Synthesize the data, create the SWOT, and come up with the story line. Hey, I'll give you an example. My storyline is, I am going to focus on this particular city, which has 100 people living. And the product that I'm going to build has 2 or 3 competitors in that area. And in that, I'm going to try to replace one competitor by bringing in a product that does better than that competitor. By that, I can actually achieve 20% buying my product and get 20% market share. This is your storyline, right? So the baseline of the product, and this is your storyline. Now it's that you have the storyline, you got to really make sure that storyline is aligned to the vision. What was your vision initially? To dominate in that city with my product, whatever the product is, that's your vision. And is this storyline really matches to that vision? Yes. And am I doing whatever it is required to achieve that vision through mission? Yes. So that's what you need to really make sure to ensure that you are aligned to your vision. The storyline that you built in step A is aligned to your vision. And once that is done, then you need to really figure out what are all the actions that I need to do to really get there. Pick industry, competition. Do I have a budget? Do I have a skills? Which feature, architecture, everything that I do. And then how am I going to price it? How am I going to stock it? And how am I going to measure the customer satisfaction? This whole thing, you got to really understand and have a grasp of it. And each of these things will map to different phases in your product development lifecycle. So that's what is the strategic planning is all about. I will pause here before I quickly browse through the business plan. Any questions from anyone on this?
Hello. Hi.
Yes, great.
Yeah. I think it's just a comment. I think the hurdle to any maybe for us in our teams. I know of my team. I don't know of others. Maybe they might have a similar challenge. I think the biggest thing would be budget. Budgets in terms of budget skills and all that. We're trying to build up our skills, but to actually get that MVP, maybe budget would be a problem because, like you said, I've been thinking about this things a lot. And how do we get to that vision? How do we build it? How do we beat an MVP? I think the biggest challenge here is budgets and maybe skills, and we need to ramp up to actually achieve this.
Exactly. And that's what we are going to do starting from next week, right? See, now what has happened if you think about it practically? So far, what we have learned has given us, all of us, a knowledge and the different terms that we all understand. at a very high level. That's why I call it as a foundational elements. Now it's that we are all in the same page. Now we need to start looking at all these things and start building our team, strengthening our team, and achieve whatever is required to reach our destination and reach our mission. That's what we're going to start doing from the next week. It could be building the programming skill. It could be identifying additional people joining your team. It could be refining your mission and vision together. It could be identifying which industry and competition that we are going to go after. Could be identifying which technology. Could be identifying how we are going to price it, and could be identifying how we are going to track it. So this is the process that we have to go through together. Now, when we start going this together from the next session, you will all understand what it is. But if I had to really start with that without explaining you all these foundational element, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about, right? So that's why we went through this this foundational element, and we will try to practically implement this from our next session onwards. So my ask to you all for the next session is, look at this slide, right? One slide, and then try to create your presentation. It need not have to be a perfect one. Try to create your presentation. This is my project. This is my vision, mission of this particular project that I wanted to do. And this is my team. OK, and these are all the different industries and competitions that I'm going to go behind. And this is my strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. This is the first thing that we need to achieve this together. Understand where we are and where we wanted to go. Then we are going to do together a number of activities to turn all the threats into an opportunity and move forward, move forward from our next session. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Now, the last thing that I wanted to show you before we close this session is in the tools, intentionally, I put this business case template. You know, a lot of people, you might be thinking that, right? You know, it's just a template, OK? You can do it in different ways. But the reason that I wanted to go through this template is because whatever that you have learned, we have learned together, you will be able to realize, me going through this, that you know, you have learned a lot. You might, you know, sometimes you remember the strategy also. Strategy is also to realize where you are, right? The same thing, when you are learning something, you also have to realize what you have learned and how much you know. You know, I wanted to give that perspective to you guys. And I was thinking, how can I actually make you realize what you have learned so far? I thought maybe it's good to take a business case template and run through this with you guys, so you would actually realize how much you have learned so far, and have a feeling of going out of this session that yes, I have learned so much, and let's start implementing that in practice starting from next session, right? So that's the thought process. Let's look at a business case template, right? What is a business case template? It's a template where is, as an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur, as an innovator, it's going to help you to decide something that you wanted to invest your time, energy, money on. That's what is the business case template is all about. So now if you look at business case template, what is this business case template typically has? It has, you know, all the product manager or the CEO names, project manager name, and what business unit that you are in, or what business that, you know, it's a general stuff. And who are your team members and so on, and who is going to approve what you're trying to do, and what is the version number of this document, business case document, and so on, the basic stuff. Then you start the business case template with an executive summary. So now what is an executive summary? What do you want it to really do? That's what is the executive summary is all about. And what in the executive summary you should have minimum, the brief overview of what you wanted to do. What is that you are trying to achieve? This is your vision, mission, and massive transformative purpose that I was talking to you about. And you know this, right? You have learned this together. And then you will be able to describe why you really want this investment, right? Why do you want to invest money, time, and energy on this to achieve the desired outcome? And in order to justify that, you need to really explain who are the major customers or market needs that you are trying to address. market size, revenue potential, targeted segments. Remember, all these things you have learned. If you answer, you know, before you don't know these terms, right? Now you know these terms. So you should be able to do this. And then you have assumption and risk. Remember, I told you any strategy always has assumptions and risks. You got to make certain assumptions and you need to write down certain risks and mitigation plan. So that's your executive summary. These are the 4 things. And also you have to be able to tell them about the finance thing, right? This is something that we have already talked about. What revenue that you are expecting, how much you are going to spend to manufacture that product, what is going to be your gross profit, how much expenses, what is before tax, what is your money, right? And then all these different words, we have already gone through this. These are some of the words as an example, but I know that you guys know these things. If you want, if I ask you to write a business plan, you would be able to write it. It might take time, you know, to collate the data and write it down. But the point is, what I wanted you to realize in this session is all these terms, whatever that I showed you, that you need to know to write an executive summary, you know today. Right? And then once you do that executive summary, then you need to frame the case. Frame the case means you are actually trying to really, go and ask your company or go and ask your investor and convince him that whatever that you have made is a real case, that you are going to be benefited, company is going to be benefited, as an investor, he is going to be benefited. So you got to frame the case. First, the general summary, right? And then the framing the case. In framing the case, there are a few things that you need to do. You need to really help the whoever that you are basically talking to. You should be able to make them understand that whatever the investment that they're going to do, time, money, and whatever. In Testoper projects, we are talking about the time devotion, right, by the people. You should be able to convince them, and you should be able to justify whatever the time that they are trying to spend is going to be useful for them and is going to benefit them. This is very, very important, right? You should be able to create that justification process. Then once that is done, right? And the second thing is the funding request. So if you need money, you should be able to ask money. If you need time, you should be able to ask time to your team. Hey, I need this much of time from you today and future. Right? And how much you are going to spend and what equipments that you are going to buy. All these things that you have learned from me, learn together. So that's your section 2, where you are basically framing the case and convincing your team to be part of your journey, whoever that you're presenting it to. And then the third one is the people, when they look at it, they have to perceive you as if you have a vision, right? And you're not all over everywhere. If they perceive you are all over everywhere, they will lose confidence in working with you or investing money in you. So you need to really able to articulate how whatever that you're trying to do is actually going to benefit that person, benefit the organization. I have a vision, mission. Whatever I'm trying to do is strategically aligned to that mission and vision. A company, you want to achieve $10 million by 2 years, and I'm going to help you to achieve that 50% from my business plan. Another 50% maybe some other guy in the company will help you, but I'm going to help you to achieve that $5 million in the next 3 years from my business plan. And it is not something that I wanted to do outside of, like, if a company is focusing on insurance, I'm not going to go and ask that company to do some products for manufacturing industry. No, right? Then they will ask you get out, right? So you got to be able to make sure that it is aligned to what the company's visions are. So you should be able to convince that. Then you should be able to help them to really understand that you have done lots of market analysis. You understand the industry. You understand the competition that you wanted to operate on. You are able to articulate your expertise around that to the person that you are presenting, market analysis. Right? And you are able to provide that in the form of, the competition, right? When you talk about market, it's always, remember, market, industry, and competition that we learned. You should be able to answer some of these questions. Which competitor that you're going to go behind? What are their weaknesses? How am I going to beat the competition? And then everything that you do, you need to finally articulate that back to the investor saying, in order for me to do this, I need your investment in time, money, or energy. So that's your next journey, right? Market analysis, which we have already learned together. Framing the case, strategic alignment, market analysis. Then once the marketing analysis is done, then you have confidently convinced that guy that yes, whatever that I decided to do is a good thing to do. And he is convinced that you are behind the right market and you know what you are doing. Then you should be able to explain how, whatever that you showed them, how am I going to achieve that with my product? What are all the different things that I'm going to do in my product from the point of view of pricing, marketing collateral, requirements, positioning? You remember product positioning, unique selling proposition that we learned together. How am I going to bring all these together by building the product to achieve whatever that I talked about in the past to these guys? And how you draw some pictures, etc., etc. So once that is done, right, then the next one is the project proposal. So what is this project proposal is all about is, okay, you have a product plan, right? Product description. Now, you remember when I was teaching you in the foundational element, what's the difference between the product management lifecycle, project management and project management? So the product management is as long as the product lives. The project has a definite start and end. So you need to start preparing the project proposal as to how many projects that is going to happen. What are all the deliverables, time zones? What is my minimum viable product that I'm going to go to market? Then what feature that I'm going to add? And how am I going to achieve all the targets that I promised you before, financial targets and business targets and so on. So you are migrating from the product description to the projects. How are you going to really achieve that? And what kind of the resources that I need? What is my timeline? What is the dependency? What is the risk? All project management related stuff that you're going to explain to make sure that they understand. Right? And what are all the things that you need to build the product? What are all the things that you need to market the product? What are all the things that you need to launch the product? Complete product management lifecycle, right? From the concept to the development to the launch. Then finally, you come up with and tell them about assumptions, forecasts, and financials. Here is where whatever that we learned about profit and loss estimates, cash flow estimates, balance sheet estimates. Remember that we learned together. So all these things, right? Cost of capital, these are a little bit advanced, but you know what it is. Break even means in 3 years, I'm going to, break even. And after that, I'm going to become profitable. You as an investor, you will get your money back starting 4th year onwards in double or triple. Right? So assumptions, forecasts, and financials is what that you do. And these are all some of the templates that I've given. You already know these templates. We have already gone through this. You can build that. Then once you have all these things, then you have to, once you have a product and financial plan, you need to start also talking about how am I going to implement it? What are all my action plans to really achieve that? You can have a strategy, you can have a goal, you can, you can have a strategy and you can have a goal to achieve, and you can have a metrics to track. All those things are good from the past. That's what you have been doing it, right? All those things are good. But then if you don't have an action plan, then you won't be able to really execute them. So you need an action plan built, and what risks and contingency plan that you have, and then recommendation, and then close it. This is what the business plan is all about. So the reason I brought up this is because I wanted you to realize what you have learned so far, right? In the foundational elements, even though it is kind of a different pieces that we have learned, but I wanted you to have a confidence that if I ask you today to start writing a business plan, at least you know what you need to do to write the business plan. You have enough knowledge to really go back and study and write a business plan for your company. If you don't have a business plan, obviously you can't really tell the story to the investors or to your company to convince and ask for the investment. So that's my summary for today, right? So the summary is we have completed our first semester, right? Together. Congratulations to you all, right? And we have learned a lot of foundational elements. And all these foundational elements have really helped us to understand the big picture of a lot of things. We know different terms that are required to write a business plan, and we know what it takes to, we have all the knowledge and know-how. Maybe we need to do a lot of research to fill up the data, but we have at least a knowledge base and different points that we have touched upon and learned together, which will enable me or one to write the business case template. But remember, this business case template that I created, this business case template is from the point of view of you as a product manager working in a company. Okay, that's this example. And you are actually going and pitching to your management in your company. And this is an example of that business case template. But if you are going to pitch to an investor outside of your company for your company as a CEO, there may be some differences to this. But fundamentally, the base thing that you need to do with industry competition and all those different things that we learned is more or less the same. Financial things that we have learned is more or less the same. Executive summary we have learned is more or less the same. Mission, vision, and whatever that you're going to define is more or less the same, right? Whatever that you wanted to create a story and then ask them and convince them is going to be the same. Analyzing the competition and identifying the risks and assumption, identifying and defining the features depending upon the customer's use case requirement, right? Remember, customer need and the feature. These are two different things that we learned. Defining that is going to be the same. And then defining the projects and the milestones to achieve that is going to be the same. And whatever the resources that are required for you to achieve that project is going to be the same. And going through the complete life cycle from the new product planning, that is concept, all the way to the development launch to the post launch is going to be the same. And all the financial statements that you're going to do is all going to be the same. And once you have all these strategy plans, goals, and targets, see, when you talk about strategy, remember 4 words. The first word is you have a strategy. Second word is you have a goal. Third one is you have a target to measure that goal. And from the goal to achieve the target, you need to have an actions in between. So remember 4 words: strategy, goal, actions, and target, and the metrics to track. So that's what is your operational action plan. Risks and contingency, and when you close it. So now, if you just take a step back, after this session and think about and go through this 10 slides or 15 slides that we have, 26 slides that we have learned together, all basic things only. But if you think about it, what you have learned, you have to have a satisfaction and perception that, I mean, I learned different dots and I know how to connect all these dots. But in hands-on to implement that may take some more time and research and so on. But at least from the learning point of view, you have learned a lot. And that's what I wanted you to go as, have as a takeaway today and close this session. Is that satisfactory enough for you guys, right? Whatever that you have learned today, are you able to relate it and are you happy about it?
Yes, Carter, I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah. So today's session really brings everything together, all what we've been learning, which is really, really good. I'm happy about it. Thank you for that. But based on the business case template you just showed us, before you can write this business case or go pitching to investors, you need to have the product, right? You need to have built the product.
Well, it depends, right? Some of the investors will give you for your idea, patents, IP. So, the answer to that question is depends. It depends,
Okay.
right? There is no one shirt fits all rule. Okay. It totally depends. And because you are all new, why I wanted to go through this is because you understand the big picture. Maybe for the first time, you might have to build the product. And after having the product, maybe you need to have 50 or I don't know, 1,000, 5,000 customers. Then only maybe some investors will look at it because you are starting up as a new entrepreneur, right? But like, for example, I had I had one of my friend, and he's very famous, so I cannot say the name. The thing is that initially he went through that. Now he's done multiple success exits, right? So, success companies. Now this guy comes up with any idea, which is, even if that idea is the worst idea, the investors don't care. They'll just come and pour the money on him, because they know that whatever idea he has, even though it's a worst idea, but he will find a way to create a uniqueness in it, and he will make them all successful, as he's made them all successful in the past. So it's like it's the process, right? There is no one single answer, Greg, to your question.
Okay. Okay. And secondly, yeah, thanks for that. That clarifies a lot. Now, since we're new, now I'm just trying to think, right? So since we're new and we're trying to build a product, so from the business plan, I know we've talked about financials in the past, and lead me to my first comment about budgeting, finances, and all that. So we're trying to build a product. So how do we capture finances when currently in our projects we are not talking about finances? No money is involved. We're only dedicating our time. We're trying to learn new skills to build this product. So how do we capture this? We are not tracking anything that relates to finance. So how do we capture those things and say we want to go pitch to an investor and say, look at what I've done in this year, look at the amounts I've made, something like that. So how do we do that?
Well, you can track, like for example, a number of hours that you have spent together as a team. It's a cost, right? And you are doing it free now, so without any investment, but you did spend all these costs, right? And yes, of course, you can assume few things to come up with as an exercise to build the financials for your business case. Okay. But in the real world, what happens is, you see, today we are in a Testoper project program, and we are all coming together. We are learning this together. But in the real world, outside of the Testoper project, if you want to start a company, Greg, right? Nobody is going to come to you and do things free for you, right? They are going to ask you money for every hour that they're going to put in, right? Or they are going to ask you a company share that you give them so that they can spend now, that after they become successful, after this company becomes successful, they will start getting the money. So in the outside world, you got to deal with the real money. So that's why I kind of introduced those financial aspects, because if I don't introduce the financial aspects, it is not complete. The business case is not complete, right? And the complete learning that you did is not complete. Everything has a cost associated to it. So now to answer your question straight, right? So how do you build the financial plan, right? Even though it is not real, but you can assume, you can say, okay, the product that I wanted to build, this is the industry that I'm going after. This is the customers. This is the market share, and this industry is $10 million. I wanted to grab 2% market share, so I'm going to earn $200,000. So in order for me to earn the $200,000, I need to build the product pricing. I need to price this product like this, blah, blah, blah. And all those things you can do even today. And after doing all those things, what is the one piece that is missing for you in the financials is your money that you have, you need, and the money that you're spending. Only those two things are missing right now, because we are all working together as a volunteer for this and learning. Right? So only those two things will be missing. Otherwise, everything else is applicable for you. You can build a financial forecast and budget, cash flow, and everything for your business plan today, based on what you have learned, Greg.
Thanks.
And even in that, you can assume, like, you have 5 resources. Just assume you're actually paying 5 resources every month, and just put some numbers. It's an exercise. We are going through an exercise now, and once you have that, then you will get a understanding. Okay, this is how I need to write a business plan. This is what is important, right? You can develop some software and you can have some product, but if you don't know all these things, you don't know what to do with what you have developed. That's the point, right? That's why it's very important for you all to go through these fundamental first semester. Otherwise, a lot of people and developers, they'll say, I want to become an entrepreneur, and they just go and they come up with an idea, they build some product, and then they don't know what to do with it. They don't even know all these terms that we have been discussing now, and they don't know how to really take this forward, right? So yeah, that way it should help you guys all. Now, what we are going to do from the next session, is make sure that you bring all your team members, And now what we are going to do is we are going to practically start looking at from the point of view of product. What is your idea? What is your SWOT? What is your mission vision? Right? Even though we don't, and then we will start looking at two directions. From the technical direction, how you are going to create this product as an MVP. On the non-technical direction, we're going to start creating the business plan and what a product pricing and all those things. So we may have to probably split each team into thinking in two directions, right? Both has to happen in parallel. One is on the technical direction, another one is on the non-technical direction, and we both have to take this in parallel, and we have to do it in a hands-on way moving forward from the next session. So please make sure all the leaders, you try to bring in your team members, and let's get this going from next session. Okay. Is that all good?
Thanks, Kada.
Yes, Kada.
Perfect. All right. With that, let's close for today's session. And even if you don't get a good perspective as to what we are going to do from the next session, you will realize that when you join together in our next session. And my expectation is all the leaders create your presentations and say where you are. That's the starting point. OK, and then we start taking actions to start building each team what we are going to do as next step. And then we move forward based on all the foundational elements that we have learned. OK.
Okay.
Perfect, guys. I'll let you all go. It's 8 minutes over time. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll see you, some of you who wants to learn tomorrow the microservice architecture, and otherwise I'll see you guys next Friday. Take care. Bye-bye. Make sure let's bring everyone into the call.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.